Friday mailbag coming up. Should Matt Rhule get the same amount of leash that Fred Hoiberg did?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here. FanDuel is the best place to get in on all the action. Head to FanDuel.com and get your college football playoff profit boosts on game day.
Welcome. It is a Friday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. We have reached the second half in this month of January. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer, 1620 The Zone, is right there. We are going to do a mailbag today. Let's just get right to it, Connor, because there are a lot of questions in the mailbag today, and I'd like to get to as many of them as we can. This one is from Adam in Colwich, Kansas. By the way, no portal headlines for you today. It's been relatively quiet. There may be some headlines, there may be some things going on, but nothing as far as commits. Nebraska did retain officially Isaiah Hunter, but that's huge. But so there's your portal headline right there. Nebraska retains Isaiah Hunter for the 2026 season. He can compete with Quasi Gilmer for the #1 wide receiver position. All right, from Adam in Colwich, Kansas. Hey guys, thanks for keeping us entertained as we move into another offseason of Husker football dominance. And there's a little wink emoji. Coach Rhule has led the football team to 2 consecutive seasons with winning records, and Nebraska now sits at 29 wins and 41 losses since the start of 2020. There are 103 teams with more wins than Nebraska this decade, including every team in the Big Ten except Purdue, which has 26 wins. My 2-part question is, how similar was the state of the football program when Coach Rhule took over to the state of the basketball program when Coach Hoiberg took over? We'll get to that one first. Let's do that, and then we'll get to Adam's second question.
Man, I just don't know if you can do it. I just don't know if you could really answer that question, just because, I mean, they were in pretty good shape, and they were winning a lot of games basketball wise. And, but when Fred came in, the whole roster was deleted. Yeah. It was, they started completely fresh. And so it didn't really matter. Fred is obviously instilled his, his part of his stamp of the program over the last couple of seasons here, but I don't think any of it has to do with the position that the program was in before he got here or anything like that. I think it's a non-factor in the Nebraska basketball case. With football, I don't know if you're 4 years in, it's either way, you're going to have to start winning soon. I get what Rhule's talking about, and I think they are in a better place, but I think they're a long way away from where they want to go, a long way away. So I guess that's how I'd answer that question.
The first 3 years under Hoiberg were worse than the first 3 years under Rhule. Yeah. And then it started to turn for Fred in his 4th year. He was 16-16 that year, and then since is well on his way to a third 21 season in a row, which would be a first in the history of Nebraska basketball. But yeah, I mean, it's somewhat apples and oranges because the difference in the types of programs that they are. Basketball is not the same as football. You can rebuild at a much different pace, and you can completely tear it down much more easily. And that's what Fred did. It wasn't Tim Miles. It wasn't that he ran that thing into the ground.
No. Not at all.
I think the previous coach in football ran things more into the ground than Tim Miles did. So, and there's just so much more to fix in football. Football is a bigger lift. Mm-hmm. So it's a difficult comparison. And then this also from Adam: is it fair for Troy Dannen and Nebraska fans to give Rhule the same amount of time to learn the conference and develop his program that Coach Hoiberg was given for basketball? Thanks, and go Big Red. This is kind of
I'm this is just how I operate. Like, I am a big patience guy. I believe in longevity. I believe in consistency. Like, I think that's really important. At the same time, it's the athletic director's job, to figure out, okay, is this going to happen if I give this person X amount of years, and what would happen, and what are we missing if we part ways with this, and do we have to start over from zero, and all of those different things. So all that stuff is factored in. But yeah, like I'm generally a big believer in patience. I don't think it's like an automatic, like, oh, you get 4 years automatically before we even start grading you. That can't be right. But they gotta start winning, obviously, very soon.
They're on their own schedule. They're on their own timetable. And what happened with basketball, I think, can serve as a lesson that if you do allow for patience, that it can turn, that it isn't always the way that it goes. It was after his third season that Fred Hoiberg took a pay cut. He had a retention bonus removed from his contract. His buyout was almost cut in half, which would have made it easier to fire him, which is interesting to think about right now. But it's all a separate scenario from what's going on with Matt Rhule. I think the one thing that can cross over is there is that just that overriding belief that if you're patient and if you back something and believe in what you're doing and have the right person there, regardless of whether the wins are coming, then there's a chance it'll pay off. And that's really about as far as I can go with it.
Yeah, let me say one more thing. Like, I always thought Fred Hoiberg was a good coach. And like, I
everyone
knew Fred
did,
Hoiberg
right?
was a good coach. And that's why it was so unbelievable what they were doing in the first 3 years. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They were so bad. They were so disorganized. Their roster was so messed up. Yeah. And the thing is with Rhule, like, he didn't come in with that tied to him from my standpoint. Like, I don't like automatically believe in him. So I think he has to win to show that.
Yeah. Okay. From Steve in Newport News, Virginia, this will be a quick one. He says, I just want to commiserate with Connor about the world of early morning radio. I did 5 to 10 a.m. music and news shift at Nebraska Public Radio in Lincoln for 3 years in the mid-90s. My wife's alarm clock literally came on with me giving her the news and the weather. Set 2 alarms.
Yeah, I have been, for the record. We're still, we're a week in here. We're figuring out the times, like that I could actually physically make it happen. Like, what's the latest minute I can wake up and still comfortably get to the studio on time and leave my couple minutes of buffer room. But
you don't have to deal with that Omaha morning traffic anymore like you used to.
No, straight shot down Dodge, baby. It takes about 15 minutes. So it used to take about 20. So we cut off 5 minutes there.
Just wait till the first day when we have 9 inches of snow and the plows haven't been through at 5 a.m.
Yeah, that'll be great. Well, that's coming very soon, I'm sure.
From Reed in Omaha, I think I may have heard this short take from Mitch. It was mentioned that schools like Ohio State and Alabama can pluck from the transfer portal with ease. So a little thought experiment. In what ways do you think the college football landscape would be a different place today if the transfer portal had begun in the mid-90s when everyone on the planet wanted to play for Nebraska? How many more conference championships might Nebraska have won? Would Nebraska have gone to the Big Ten? Would Nebraska have acquired any more natties? I can't say how many more conference championships they would have won, but the other two are interesting.
Well, you know what? The first thought that came to my head is I think Nebraska would have less national championships.
Yeah, it could hurt. My thought is it would have hurt them too, because it was such a development program, and I think there are players who went on to become stars and All-Americans at Nebraska because they were patient and stayed in the program and got there into the starting lineup when they were 3rd and 4th year players. And that's what made the program great. And if the transfer portal was around with the same attitude that everyone has today, they'd just be out of there after 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I think there would be more schools with the ability to win national championships because of the players that they could potentially get. Like, there's still how much money you want to put into, and Nebraska was sort of on the, they were on the cutting edge of that. So it's hard to say, but my first instinct tells me that it would hurt them more than it helps.
Okay, a couple more before our first break. Here's an angle to the Raiola transfer that I haven't seen discussed anywhere. As we know, Oregon comes to Lincoln in 2027, likely with Dylan Raiola as its quarterback. What if Nebraska selects that game to honor the 1997 national championship team? 30-year reunion. The 24 and 25 games were scheduled against Colorado and Michigan in September, so I suppose it's schedule dependent. The other conference home games that year are Indiana, Ohio State, Maryland, and is that right? Because Nebraska has Indiana and Ohio State this year at home. Whatever. We're not going to list the conference home games in 2027 because I think this is wrong from Ben. Anyway, so potentially a lot of heavy hitters to choose from. If the university does select that game, what are the odds that Dominic Raiola joins his former teammates for the celebration?
The home games, by the way, would be Iowa, Minnesota, Oregon, Purdue, and Rutgers in 2027.
Okay. Yeah, we were a little off, but that's okay because Oregon's the one that matters for this question.
Yeah, and fascinating. I hadn't really thought about it.
I think he'd come. I think he'd come and be there. I think
Absolutely.
that blood is thicker than water, and especially with the year buffer between the breakup between Nebraska and the Raiolas, that Dominic would and will be there to walk out with his 97 teammates. Now he was a red shirt on that 97 team, just a pup, but he was a part of it. So sure.
Yeah, I would think so. Maybe there's
the only national championship he won.
Maybe there's some sort of nod, like he pulls down his quarter zip, like, the pilots do when they honor the pilots of the flyovers, maybe he's got an Oregon shirt on underneath or something.
Hey, when all of the pain and hard feelings and things like that wash over, and Dylan Raiola is not going to be in college forever, like Dominic is a Husker through and through, and that's not changing. Like he would have to go on a bridge burning tour like somebody else from that 1997 squad in order. Now there's a question. Well, he probably wouldn't come back because he'll have a game to coach that weekend. We're talking about Scott Frost.
Not yet. Maybe the 40-year reunion.
He would. Yeah. I don't even know about. I don't know about that one. I don't.
The 50?
I don't think so. Let's take a break. We'll come back. The return of Gigi, who has been missing from during the holidays. She is back repping the Las Cruces Nebraskans with questions. Can't wait to get to that after this. But now, a message from Game Time, because there's nothing like college football season with the tailgates, the packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. And there's one more game in the college football season, and it is Monday. It will have energy. It will have bands. It will have moments that you remember forever. But if you actually want to get tickets to that game, well, you're probably way too late. But if you're still thinking of going, go to Game Time. Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. It is the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and tickets to college basketball and concerts and whatever events you might want to go to. The app is incredibly easy to use. You can go from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. They have the zone deals where you pick the section and then Game Time gives you the seats and you save money. You can know all the prices up front. It makes the process stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets, college basketball tickets, whatever it is, with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Thanks for making the Locked On Nebraska podcast your first listen of the day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right, we go to Gigi in Las Cruces. She has 2 questions from her group there in New Mexico. First, Gigi writes, if the transfer portal ended on Friday, do players in the portal then have a deadline to transfer to another school, or is it open-ended until they decide?
No, the only deadline is school. You do have to go to school at some point, but that's sort of a floating.
Right. The semester has begun, and you need to be in class, or you need to be enrolled in class, and
right.
That's the only. That's the only.
I know Nebraska has they started school already, but there's like a 2-week period where you can change classes and stuff like that. So they can go all the way up to the last minute. But yeah, generally the clock is ticking for school.
Yeah, next week is getting late.
Yeah.
Second, in light of the coaching changes, both the fired and the new additions, and Coach Mike Eckler, possibly leaving, what are the financial ramifications for the athletic department if a coach leaves, either fired or lured away, and goes to another school?
Yeah, well, just to clarify here, this has been pretty widely reported that he is taking that job as of Thursday evening. So actually the wording from Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports is USC is likely hiring Nebraska special teams coordinator Mike Eckler. So I would expect
it may be official by the time you are listening to this podcast on Friday. Right. We're anticipating it and have been anticipating it since Matt Rhule made the comments that he did on Wednesday, which was basically, if he goes, he goes. I've got my plan.
You'd be a better person to ask as far as a contractual situation.
I mean, if a coach gets fired, then it's whatever the terms are of the contract that allows him to whatever the contract states for him to get paid. For Eck, who's leaving, there are some assistant coaches who have school buyouts written into the contract. I don't believe that any of the Nebraska assistants do. Could check on Eckler's for sure. But head coaches certainly do. And that was a part of Matt Rhule's situation when Nebraska re-upped with him, was increasing that number so that if you were lured away, he would have to pay. And usually it's the school that he's going to ends up paying, but somebody would have to pay that money that's stated in the contract. So if a coach gets lured away, then in many cases they end up or their next school has to pay the school they left. But that's not generally the case with position coaches or even coordinators.
Yeah, assistants generally this is how it's worked at Nebraska. They're on 2-year cycles, and according to Rhule, they offered him a contract extension in the middle of the season, and he didn't sign it, and so probably 1 year left on that, and they just take over the contract, and I assume it kind of just works like that.
Nebraska's not going to owe him any money if he leaves.
No. Let's go to Greg in Broken Arrow. Hi, fellas. Is it possible or even legal to offer players multi-year contracts in either rev share or NIL? Could we say multiple year security versus one and done? These players are 18 and over, so are they allowed to enter contracts legally?
Well, that would be by state, and I mean, I think in virtually all states, 18 or 19 is viewed as a legal adult. So, I mean, they can enter into contracts, and if there was some scenario where a 17-year-old comes to school, then they're just going to get a guardian involved, and these things get done. Yes, they can do multi-year contracts, and there are situations like that are being worked on and have been signed. I don't know that they're necessarily going to hold players to stay in school over the duration of their contracts. So you'll see situations where players try to break contracts, and we saw one at Washington this year that was just signed and that a player tried to break, and he Damon Williams, he ended up staying at Washington as a result of the fact that yes, you did sign a contract. So
yeah. He had just signed a contract.
Yeah, but even if it had been a year ago and it was for 2 years, the situation would have been just about the same. There was some odd language in his contract that
I would assume that there was a handful of guys that Nebraska signed last portal season that they had to sign for 2-year deals, and because of that didn't go into the portal this offseason. So yeah, that's a thing.
All right, from Greg in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. No, that was Greg. From Jordan, something I don't think people floated this year. Did we or did we not squash the fourth quarter meltdown bug in 2025?
Well, unfortunately, so maybe they squashed that, but the third quarter, was it at the third quarter meltdown bug that bit them this year? They get absolutely killed in the third quarter.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time bringing it back prior to the Raiola injury that happened in the third quarter. The third quarter there were bad things going on in the third quarter this season for Nebraska. Yeah, I mean, the final 3 games of the season just kind of skew the whole thing. And Nebraska didn't get squashed in the fourth quarter of those games because the games were already decided when they got to the fourth quarter, which is really a sad statement. But if on its face, your question, Jordan, the answer is yes. Nebraska did better this year to win games that were in doubt in the fourth quarter. So
yeah, by the way,
take it any further than that.
Quickly, so Nebraska was outscored 111-70 in the third quarter this year. They got smoked.
Okay. It's not great.
The third quarter. In the fourth quarter, they outscored their opponents 83-68. They won every other quarter as well.
Okay. Yeah, and again, some of those fourth quarters, at least 3 of them, were not competitive situations. So, from Vince in Napa, he says, "A thought. I love and appreciate everything Husker basketball has done and achieved to this point in 2025-26. I hope the success continues. Every sport, from football to badminton." Nebraska does not have badminton. "Has my support if the name Huskers is emblazoned on the uniform. However, I will always be a staunch believer that football is the sport that changes the perception of the school, high school or college, more so than anything. So no, I would not trade extended football mediocrity for a singular Final Four," which was a question that we asked on a recent podcast. Not every school has football, Vince. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, that's not debatable for a school like Nebraska. For anyone in the Big Ten, or just about anyone in the Big Ten, football drives the bus.
It's different strokes for different folks, but generally, like, I agree with the premise. Like, football is the front door to your university. Yeah. But like,
yeah, you can go to Purdue and say like, nah, Purdue's the reason. Right. But Purdue basketball, Michigan State is the reason that people know about those.
I think there's a lot of people who primarily care about Nebraska basketball, and they're like, yeah, I mean, sweet, that's a great deal. I mean, football was already going to stink anyway, so why not take this Final Four run?
Right. But as far as changing the perception of the school, like sure. You said, the front porch is where football resides. And then question, we'll quickly address this. I'll go away from sports and make it media-based. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette recently announced that it is closing its operations. Is there a world where newspapers are gone completely within the next decade or two? And with the popularity of podcasts rising, where do you see the future of terrestrial AM/FM radio?
Wow. You want to answer the print one, and I'll answer the radio one?
Yeah. Adapt or be killed. And there is a world where some newspapers go away, and that you're seeing that because they were not ready to adapt to the digital revolution. And those that are adapting and doing it well will continue to exist. There will be a place for print, whether it's in your hands or on your screen for a while, for the foreseeable future.
Same thing in radio. I would say that the thing that, you know, talk radio has going for it that I've always really loved about it is number one, the day-to-day consistency, and number two, the immediacy. Like if something happens and you flip on the radio, 1620 The Zone is there talking about it right away. Like we don't have to like assemble our podcast gear and tape it and get it out or anything like that. Like we're just there. So like I think that keeps it alive for sure.
All right, from Brendan, is there a chance that if Mike Eckler leaves, Nebraska can give that big extension that Rhule talked about over to Nate Lenzer?
What a question. I think Coach Lenzer is probably in for a nice little bump this offseason, I would think.
He would be the defensive coordinator for Fred Hoiberg and the Nebraska basketball team.
Yep.
Yeah, having a heck of a season, and he may be in for a bump with Nebraska, or he may be a head coach somewhere in 3 months. So we'll see. Definitely raising his profile here with this incredible run from Husker hoops. Yeah, for sure. From Jeff in Omaha, as you know, Husker basketball player Ugnis Yerushevicius has played in only one game during the 2025-26 season due to a back injury. Can Oogie still redshirt this year? Or is football the only college sport where an athlete can play in a limited number of games and retain that year of eligibility? He can redshirt. He can redshirt on a medical, but not on like the football play in 4 games. Did you see where the coaches want to have it 9 games?
Yes, 9 games. Great. Now, I'll agree with the coaches there because it feels like it feels like that's just a replacement for 5 for 5, which they obviously feel like isn't going to happen in the near future. So they're just like,
trying to
all right, let's just
shoehorn it in.
Basically, is 5 for 5. Yeah.
Well, in other sports, it doesn't exist that way. Like you don't have the 4-game red shirt in other sports. But Oogie is eligible for a red shirt this year, a medical red shirt. He is not a guy like Rink Mast who's been in school for 7 years. Oogie is a 4th-year senior. So I believe he played 2 years in California and then last year in the state of Michigan. So this is his 4th year, and he can definitely take a medical red shirt and has not exceeded.
At this point, I would do that. At this point, I would just shut him down. I mean, I understand that you want to have all your pieces on deck to, if you're making some sort of deep run in some sort of like emergency situation. But
it depends on. What's his academic situation? Does he want to get on with his life?
Yeah.
Is there any way that he can be healthy? If somehow in February he can be healthy and you can have him for like the most important month in Nebraska basketball history, you think about it. I suppose you think about it, but it's a conversation with the player and the coach, and it doesn't look like he's getting healthy. Like he's not. It's not progressing in a direction that's trending toward him being able to play.
No.
From Patrick, let's do this and then take a break.
Okay.
From Patrick and Pilger, Nebraska basketball has it cracking like a 2-egg shell.
Nice.
Yes, they do, Patrick. We all have to immerse ourselves in this season because of how special it is. But if we can take a step out, how big will this season be this year for player acquisition moving forward? Could Hoiberg hand pick exactly who he wants for next year, or will the logo still have a big impact?
No, I mean, Nebraska's always been a relatively attractive place, but I think you have to, if you're Fred, you got to kind of keep your nose to the grindstone a little bit. You have to think about what made this team so good and don't
change the formula.
Yeah, you obviously try to get the best players that you possibly can, and then you create a situation where those people can win. But it's not like you're going right back to star chasing and getting NBA guys or anything like that.
No, they're not going to go back to They're not going to adopt the Kentucky philosophy or go back to saying, all right, we need and Bryce McGowan's was not throwing him under the bus, but like that formula that they used to build a team around him, that wasn't the winning one for Nebraska. This is the winning one for Nebraska. And you got to think about retention before you can go think about acquisition. And in the year ahead, Nebraska will have to try to do something to retain Braden Frager. Nebraska will have to try to do something to retain Bryce Sanford for his last year. And Berke is a junior also. So yeah, that's where you start. And they have recruits who were signed, and they have some guys on the bench that they like. And then yes, they will go after some players in the portal for certain. And it would be nice. It would be nice for Fred after this year, what is trending to be an amazing year, a year that might end with Nebraska having success in the NCAA tournament for the first time ever. It would be nice if he had some money to spend that was more on par with like the average Big Ten team.
Yeah, they'll be all right. I think that they'll be able to put something together in the offseason. All right, let's take a break. We'll be back after this. All right, final segment. Let's roll through these. Emmett in Ainsley, Nebraska. I have a few questions about the portal. He says, at the QB position, we brought in Tony and brought back Danny. Is there a world where those two are your first and second string guys with TJ as your third, taking a red shirt year like he originally intended this year? We could go one question at a time here quickly, I suppose. I think there's a world where that exists, probably.
Not impossible. I don't know that it's like the most likely scenario that I would draw up, but absolutely. I think one thing that TJ Lateef has shown here in the last 2 weeks, and even you could say in the last month and a half, is that he's more than willing to be patient and understanding with Nebraska. And
I would also say don't worry about the red shirt thing. Like if he's the second string quarterback, then he's the second string quarterback. And if he gets over 4 games, then he gets over 4 games. But if he doesn't, then he takes the red shirt, and that's it. Like this is not a time to be worrying about saving a year. That's sort of where.
Well, I mean, to go back to what Emmett's saying is does Kalen become your second string guy? And
Right.
I think going into this right now, like there's a battle for the backup position.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
between Kalen and Latif, and we'll see what happens with that in the spring.
The running back room is also a big question for me. Are we going to just ride with Mosey and Nelson, or do we bring someone in with production and come in and complete that room? What a question.
We'll see. We've been talking about it, and I think we're on the same page here that Nebraska needs to pursue a running back. I was thinking about this as I noticed a photo that popped on social media of EJ Barthel, Nebraska's running backs coach, out seeing Amir Brown, who's the Huskers commit at that position in the 2027 class, and thought, I wonder if maybe part of the reason that Nebraska's playing it conservatively in the way that it builds the running back room is because they have a commit in 2027 that they like, and they have a freshman coming in Jamal Rhule in the 2026 class that they like. But it doesn't really compute for me. Like, relying on the young players. I mean, Matt Rhule said it yesterday. Like, you have to go for proven experience, and relying on young players in today's world of college football is a fool's errand. So I think,
remember, they think
they need to go after somebody.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, remember, they had Quan Lacey committed, and you could have said, "Oh, we're not going to take anybody else, and we're not going to do anything for 20 because this is our centerpiece." And then he decommitted, and he went to Ole Miss, and he went to the college football.
He went to Missouri first, and he transferred.
Yeah, right.
So even if you get the guy, like, you don't even
exactly.
They could sign Emmett. They could sign your namesake Emmett Smith, and like, it doesn't mean he's going to play there. Like, unless you put him in the lineup year one. Many times the player's likely to transfer. So go get a running back. Go get a running back, Nebraska.
And then Emmett's wondering about the offensive and defensive line where I think they're going to add probably maybe one more offensive lineman with what they've added before. If they're at zero, then they're at zero. They trust the depth behind those guys at this point. And then the defensive line, they're attempting to get a big one from Oregon, and there's a couple that are on the board, but yeah,
they're trying. They seem to be prioritizing D-line there. And Emmett was asking specifically about tackle depth, and I would agree that their tackle depth is shaky right now. They seem to have some with Babalade and Pritchett, some good options to start, but tons of tackles got hurt in the program this last season. So it would be nice to have somebody else that's experienced there. And Gunnar Gatula is, but beyond that. All right. 3 more from Nate in Minden, Nebraska. I'm liking the QB room right now. Do you think that Danny Kalen came back because he thought because there will be a competition for QB1 instead of players coming in to compete for QB2?
Hard to know. Yeah. Hard to know what his expectation was. I don't think that he
wants to play.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly wants to play, but he could also see that Nebraska brought in a quarterback with plenty of starting experience who, just appears to be better, just with the production that he's had so far in his career. So I don't know. My first thought was, if you're going to be the backup, then why not just be the backup at home? That type of thing. But I don't know his motivations.
Yeah, I think he wants to play, and I think he sees he's playing the long game here. And the opportunity, if it's not there in 2026, could and probably will be there at some point for Danny Kalen if he sticks it out and is patient. From Joe, is Gideon Pillow Wade IV the best name in the history of Nebraska football? If not, who gets your vote?
I mean, that's really close. I mean, we got you go to the classic I Am Hip and Wonder Mons, like wonderful, terrific Mons.
Yeah,
but,
wonderful, terrific Mons. Yeah.
Gideon Pillow Wade is pretty special, and Jeep is already really good. It's just amazing that his middle name is Pillow, which is fantastic. So it's got to be up there. He's like a first team All-American as far as names are concerned in Nebraska.
I love I Am Hip. And he had a great name before, like, the all name team was a thing. So he's an original, an OG in the great names. Nobody will ever replace him in my mind. But
Ndamukong Suh. Hall of Famer.
It's a good name. I mean, it's just
Great name.
It's different. It's not. It's like, oh, that's an interesting name. I mean, it's he's from what, Cameroon? His family's from. So
That's right. Yeah.
there's a lot of Indominicans in Cameroon.
It's the
Congrats.
That's awesome though.
Yeah, it's true, because you could go with the Sioux chant. Yes, the Sioux, like the boos coming down from the fans. By the way, huge congrats to Indomitian Sioux for being elected to the College Football Hall of Fame. So that's big, and he will be inducted in December. But along the likes of Aaron Donald and Mark Ingram, who beat Sioux out for the Heisman in 2009. Anyway, that's a different show. We'll talk about that some other time.
All right, Shane and Carney, last one. I don't know what Shane's talking about, for the record.
I do.
Now that Donovan and the rest of the Raiolas are gone, can you tell us what really happened between him and Luke Fickell after the game last year?
Yeah, so when Wisconsin came to Nebraska last year after the game, and Nebraska won, and it was a little crazy down on the field at the end of the game. The fans stormed the field. It was a stork corming, the basketball equivalent. Donovan was talking to some Wisconsin folks, and there was a misunderstanding between Luke Fickell and his security as far as what was going on, and Fickell, he told his security to get rid of that guy. Like, he thought that guy was getting too close to him or whatever.
Oh, okay. I vaguely remember this.
And then I was there. I witnessed the whole thing, and it was like, wait, the security was going to go after Donnie. And it's like, he's a coach. I mean, I may have been one of the people who was like, I was like, no, that guy's a coach for Nebraska. Like, you can't take him away. So it's like his personal security from Wisconsin, and nothing happened. Like, no one was touched or anything like that. But I think it was a misunderstanding, Shane. I don't know that, Donovan's a Wisconsin grad. I think he knew some people, or had some things he wanted to say perhaps to Wisconsin, and Fickell wasn't sure what was going on and thought he was being accosted when that wasn't really what was happening.
Okay, there you go. That's a deep cut. I would not have thought about that one. All right. Appreciate you guys' questions today and this week. You could continue to do those next week, as we'll wrap up the portal on Monday, or at least for the time being. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen. Make sure to follow us along on all the social medias. Email us lockedonneb@gmail.com. We have the national 24/7 Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel coming up for you on video, and your second listen on audio needs to be Locked On College Football. We'll talk to you on Monday.